Hey guys, we are out in the boat. It is 2:42 and we've got till about 4:15 to fish, so that's an hour and a half. We had a bad storm blow through earlier today. It rained, it's gotten really windy, and the temperature has dropped about 10 to 15 degrees, which I'm sure is making this water temp plummet. And so I don't know if the bite's going to be any good, but I figured my best shot would be to flip around with this super little jig. This is a Dirty Jigs compact, Scott Canterbury compact flipping jig. This is one of my absolute go-tos on the tour. It's a bitsy bug on steroids. Big hook, stout weed guard, great colors. It pairs up perfect with that 3-inch Berkeley chigger craw. So we're gonna get out and flip this thing around, see if we can't get a bite or two, kind of show you what type of structure I like to flip, and yeah, hopefully we can get a bite. That didn't take too long. A little baby largemouth. We're looking for bigger than that. So this time of year, when the fishing's tough and you get a cold front comes through and that water temp starts dropping, what I'm looking for is usually a hard target. So wood is a huge factor anywhere you go across the country, and that's because the wood holds heat. You know, right now, so if I can find wood that's closer to a little deeper water and ideally on a harder bottom, that's generally the best stuff that I can find. You know, if you can find really thick weed as well, wood inside really thick weed, that can be just as good because you got the weed acting as an insulator as well. But, oh, we just missed one. What I was saying is the weed acts as a good insulator as well. You're just looking for something that keeps the warmth, but you really a lot of times have to put your bait right on the target. So later in the fall, this type of bush stuff is not nearly as good for me. You know, this stuff excels in the spring. And a lot of that has to do with the fish are making beds under the branches, but the branches are not limiting the amount of sunlight, so they can still spawn in them. The problem is in the fall, this stuff isn't that good because it doesn't hold the heat. You've just got little branches. You got to find the bigger stuff like this up here is where the fish should be. You know, it's kind of a small transition, but it's an actual transition that happens just between the type of cover that they're holding on. The bigger stuff holds the heat, but they can't spawn around it as good because it blocks the sunlight fully. Smallmouth? What are you doing in here? Huh. Well, they like the compact flipping jig as well. Not exactly what I was expecting to catch, but that's a nice 15-incher. Chunky backwater river fish. So that smallmouth I just caught was set up pretty much exactly how they should be. We've got a little bit of current coming this way, and that fish is sitting right where that current's hitting. That current hits about that middle of the log jam and then comes this way. You can see the leaves hit it and are starting to slide along the tree. So when I fish this stuff, I like to try to cast on this side of on the upstream side of the log, because when it comes down, I'm envisioning those fish looking upstream. So I usually try to fish this side first. And when I say this side, I'm talking of the log that I think they're sitting on it. You know, I may cast over stuff to get back in there, but I'm trying to position my bait where I think that fish is looking, not necessarily where they are. If I cast over the log, there's potential that I'm gonna land on the fish's tail and I could potentially spook them. So it's important to know how you're setting up on each log and where you think the fish are. You know, there's about a foot of water for the 10 feet between shore and where the log starts. So that's really not where the fish are gonna be, but they're right on the edge of the current, which in the fall is about where you would expect them to be. In the summer, they'd probably be out on the tip of the tree, but in the fall, they're not gonna be out in the main part of the current. Now, we have very little current back here, but it still comes into play. Not what's supposed to be in that tree. Get out of there. Mr. Largemouth. Another nice small keeper, probably a 14.5 incher. Nice healthy fish. Eating the old finesse jig. And I changed my trailer, guys. This is a 3-inch Pit Boss now. I actually ran out of the Chigger Craws. I thought I had some more, but I do not. So I switched to the 3-inch Pit Boss, which is another one of my favorites for this small. Ooh, that felt like another bite. For the small, compact Canterbury flipping jig. The other thing to note, in the fall time, a lot of times these fish will start grouping up on specific trees. So if you do get a bite, make sure you fish that tree thoroughly. And you may fish 5 or 6 trees that all look the same and not get a bite, and then come to one and catch 3 out of it. And I don't know exactly why that is, but because every time you fish that area, each tree might be good at one point. You know, it's not always the same tree is the best. So it's just important to recognize, you know, the season you're in, because in the summer they'll probably be more spread out. In the fall they will start grouping up more. Oh boy, that's a bass. It's a good one. What do we got? A big old smallmouth. And we got him in the side of the gill. That's weird. Look at that nice one. Nice 3-pounder. Picked up the tail, got him in the gill plate. That, guys, is why that finesse jig is so good. I mean, that fish, in order to get hooked in the gill, he picked up the tails. And because it's such a small, compact bait, I was still able to hook him with that laser sharp hook. Just something that's different. If I was throwing a full-size jig, I'd probably come back without a trailer. Oh, Well, that was a nice largemouth. I could not get him over the log. So something else, guys, you got to keep in mind, anytime you're fishing a big laydown like this, I came from this direction. I threw a couple of casts at it, but you always want to throw a couple parallel. You will increase the number of bites you get if you fish the log parallel. Because if you throw 3 or 4 casts at it from a perpendicular direction, you may not have hit the sweet spot where that fish was at, but if you throw a parallel, you're going to end up covering that log so much better. And the nice thing with this is if you're fishing like a team event, this is a perfect thing for a teammate to do. You know, if I were fishing up here now, my teammate could be really peppering this tree at a good parallel, or at a parallel angle. And I guarantee you guys that you will end up catching more fish if you do that. It's really important to make sure you're casting parallel. If you're dragging something or throwing a crankbait, whatever it is, fishing parallel to a laydown is so much better than trying to just bring it up and over the top, because you're not covering that laydown nearly as well as you could be. Oh, pike edge. All right, guys, we switched to pond bug with a 3-inch June bug pit boss. I'm thinking the darker color might help with the pike a little bit. You know, we've had a couple of pike bites there that I've been bitten off on now, so I figured let's make a switch, see if that helps. We only got about I don't know, 15 more minutes at this point, but I want to catch more bass. That's a nice largemouth right there, guys. All right, that's a good one. That's another 3 1/4. He's peeing, got the fall spawn going on apparently. Guys, in a cold front condition in the fall, a small jig like that Canterbury compact flipping will catch you big ones like this beautiful river largemouth. That's a nice close to 3 1/2 pounder. So I think, having said that, I think we're gonna head in here. We've been out for our 1.5 hours. We've had a bunch of bites, caught a couple of good ones, lost a couple of good ones. Fishing's been really good, and I think a lot of it has to do with this small compact jig, matching it with a little 3-inch Berkley pit boss. Man, they cannot resist this in cold front conditions. It is so good to downsize and to give yourself another shot with something like that. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video.